This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Hope you had a great weekend and a very happy Mother's Day, especially to all you moms out there. It was a great sports weekend, and we have a lot to talk about today on the program. The Blue Bombers are well underway at training camp. Taylor Allen is going to jump on and give us the latest now that rookie camp is in the rearview mirror, and it's all systems go to get ready for the preseason and the opening of the Canadian Football League year. We'll also talk some puck. Off-season for the Winnipeg Jets, and now, unfortunately, the off-season for the Manitoba Moose. They were bounced by the Grand Rapids Griffins on the weekend. Dan Fink will join us to wrap up Moose season and their playoff run. And we'll also have Mike McIntyre discuss some Jets off-season topics, the end of the Moose year, as well as the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And while some hockey is finishing up, Assiniboia Downs is getting going tomorrow. Darren Dunn will join us on the program later on today on the program. And I should mention, by the way, if you, with the start of the season, we are running a contest throughout May where if you want and are able to join us in the clubhouse dining room for that beautiful prime rib buffet and a night of racing, we're going to be bringing 3 winners and a guest to join the WST team on June 3rd in the Terrace Dining Room at Assiniboia Downs. Now, what you need to do is go to the website, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest, enter to be a contestant in one of 3 horse races, somewhat similar to the marble race. On Wednesday and the following 3 Wednesdays, we will pick 10 entries from everyone that enters. Everyone will get a horse. We're going to run a horse race, and the winner and a guest will be joining us on June 3rd at Assiniboia Downs. So jump on that right now, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest to be eligible. We got to talk about a high-powered top line at the World Championships with 2 members of the Winnipeg Jets and Captain Macklin Celebrini. And, of course, big shout-out to the Niverville Nighthawks, who are looking good at the Centennial Cup. They're off today. They had a big win on the weekend. So we have a lot to get into today. Welcome to everybody in chat. What's going on? Shane Payne, yes, 1 month into the World Cup. Let's get Huss and Remo's World Cup predictions. I promise the calls are going out right now. We are going to be bringing in plenty of World Cup talk. We got to find out what's up with Alphonso Davies. Is he going to be able to play? How's Canada's team looking heading into it? And get you set up. We're hoping to have a few great guests over. And, of course, this week, too, it's a major week on the PGA Tour, PGA Championship. So we will talk some golf later on. But really, so much coming out of the weekend. We'll be all over that today on the program. Shout out to you podcast listeners as well. And, hey, a big thanks to the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our partners at CoolBet Canada, despite Pat's suspension after the Leafs won the lottery last week. Our friends at Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line, Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. The Tri-Hospital Lottery. Get your tickets at trihospitaldream.com today. Manitoba Battery, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Travel Manitoba. Our friends at St. Vital Dental Center, Rowley's Transfer, Assiniboia Downs, and the Winnipeg Goldeyes home opener a week tomorrow. They're over 90% full for the game. Get your tickets today over at goldeyes.com. Let's get the show on the road. Welcome to everybody in chat. And welcome to you, Michael Remis. How was your Mother's Day?
Nice Mother's Day. Had a couple celebrations, some nice meals, nice seeing everyone. So, yeah, pretty solid. I was shuttling the kids around to events all day yesterday, so...
Did you give your wife just a day off and you took the kids and did all that and just gave mothers what they really want in life, just a little bit of peace and quiet?
She had some peace and quiet. We had some in there, I'll say. So, yeah, that was going on here. Hopefully it was yours okay after, if anyone missed the end of Friday's show, I broke the news to you that it was Mother's Day yesterday.
Well, it was funny, and a special happy Mother's Day to my mom and all the moms. But I was floored. I did not. I don't know what. It caught me off guard. I thought it was maybe the following week. But my mom, number one fan of WST, was, of course, watching, and I did get an email right afterwards. Yes, it is, and I am watching with a heart. So shout out to moms. Always our biggest fans are moms out there. Listen, we're going to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we obviously got to talk about that game last night with the Montreal Canadiens and Buffalo Sabres, and a big one tonight with the Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. But, Remo, a couple of things before we get to the NHL. First off, and again, we'll talk about this later on with Dan Fink, the end of the Manitoba Moose season. And not surprisingly, despite, a gutsy performance over this series by the Moose, staying right in these games, Grand Rapids just a little bit too much for Manitoba to handle. And this one was wrapped up on Friday night with a 3-1 series win for the Griffins.
Yeah, Grand Rapids had that start to the season where they were pretty much ran the table, and you knew it was going to be tough. And for the first couple of games for the Moose, scoring goals was a struggle. And, they got the split at home, which you knew it was going to be extremely tough on the road. And, kind of the result that was likely. They lost 5-2 to end the season. Maybe in game 3, they got down 3-0, made it close, made it 3-2. But, scoring goals, I think, for them was, couldn't generate offense, special teams, an issue. And this is a very good Grand Rapids team. So credit to them for moving on. It was, I'll say, being at game 1, it was electric at Canada Life Center. I won't forget where I was for the Mason Shaw go-ahead goal with 2 minutes left, but wasn't enough for the Moose as their season wrapped up.
Yeah, no doubt. Unfortunate that it ended. I still think that the possibility of... I just think this was great for the younger players. Listen, Brad Lambert didn't have a great playoff. Braden Yeager, though, 4 points on the playoffs, and I thought the goaltending, in particular, Dom DiVincentis, really, really stood out. As I said, Dan Fink's going to jump on to wrap Moose season, but here's a couple quick clips from head coach Mark Morrison. Here's Morrison on the season ending earlier than they would have liked.
Well, it's always an empty feeling when you're with a group of guys for the whole season and it ends so abruptly. It's always hard. It's hard for everybody, but I'm proud of them. I'm very proud of this group. We've had a lot of different groups that have ended at different times, but this group, there was no quit in them, and they became close. They became a tight-knit team and good teammates to each other. And as I told them at the end of it, they created a great environment for us all to work in, including the staff and the players, the young players. They were a good group.
So there's Mark Morrison on the end of the season in the playoffs. Always disappointing at any point when your team ends it. But I think obviously they showed a lot in coming back from elimination, looking at elimination twice against Milwaukee, and certainly played the Grand Rapids Griffins hard. Here's Morrison's thoughts on the season overall for the Manitoba Moose.
I think just the group. Just really proud of the group. They were very tight. They were all good teammates. Worked really hard, and they played well. We ran up against a good hockey team, but very proud of the group and how hard they played and how hard they practiced and how hard they stuck together.
That seems to be one of the themes from the players today, is just how they came together as a team. When did you see that start to form between them?
Well, I think it happened throughout the year in different situations where, we went into Laval, a real good hockey team, and won both games. So we went into Grand Rapids and won a hockey game. We went into Toronto and beat Toronto. We won some big games, and I think they had the belief as a group that, when it came push to shove in the playoffs, that they were going to be able to get it together. And for the most part, they did. They just ran up against a real good team.
And with that in mind of just how this group came together, how nice was it to see them to be rewarded for some of that with some kind of signature playoff moments, whether it was the couple of wins against Milwaukee or that first win against Grand Rapids?
Yeah, that was important, for them. I still think at the end, after the last game in Grand Rapids, they were down. I think they believed that they were going to win as well as I did. And it always ends so abruptly that it's a bit of a shock. But they can hold their heads high. They played very well, and they, I think the effort was there, and I think everybody got a little bit better.
All right, so there's Mark Morrison. We'll have Fink on one final time to discuss the end of the Moose season and the players that maybe helped their cause within the organization with their performance in the postseason. As Kevin Soldier says, we still have Niverville alive for a Manitoba hockey team. Yes, congratulations to the Nighthawks, who had a big 7-2 win on Saturday against the Thunder Bay North Stars to go 2-0, one in overtime, one in regulation. They do use the 3-point system in the tournament. They're in second place behind the Canmore Eagles, and they're going to get the Canmore Eagles on Tuesday. They're off today, and we're off yesterday, so 2 days off for Niverville. They'll play Canmore, which sounds like and looks like it'll be a matchup for first place in the division on Tuesday, and then their final game is on Wednesday while we're on the air, starting at 2 o'clock against the Rockland Nationals. So we'll stay on top of that, the Centennial Cup. Flin Flon Bombers, while technically a Saskatchewan League team, obviously, partly in Manitoba as well, they got their first win, beating the Greater Sudbury Cubs earlier today. So that's the latest from the Centennial Cup, and we'll stay on top of that throughout the week. As far as the National Hockey League last night, Remo, that was quite the scene in Montreal last night. Listen, you don't have to love the Habs to get chills when you turn on the television and crank the sound and hear what's going on at Bell Center. I'm not sure that there is an atmosphere in North American sports like the Bell Center at playoff time. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Max Whiteout, but with an extra 6,000 or 7,000 fans. They were dialed in from the get-go. Not a great start for Montreal, giving up that early goal to to Buffalo and Tage Thompson. But man, they battled back. We're clearly the better team for the full 60 minutes. There was some nonsense and unbelievable running of the goaltender by Beck Malmsteen that I'm still shocked wasn't a 5-minute major. But a huge weekend for the Habs after dropping game 1 in Buffalo. They're now up 2-1 with a home game, looking to put themselves one win away from a date with the Carolina Hurricanes, who are going to be chilling for like the next 2 weeks after another sweep.
Yeah, a lot of time off here for Carolina. As for Montreal, Jakub Dobeš reminding everyone of Yaroslav Halak and his performance back in 2010. And maybe Montreal's, peaking a bit early in their rebuild, but you have Caulfield, Suzuki, making a huge impact. Lane Hudson bouncing back here. And
Was he good last night? Oh my God, is he fun to watch? And
even Demidov finally, getting on the board here. He had some slow games. Slavkovsky. I mean, there's so many great players on Montreal, and Buffalo. They were wondering if Tage Thompson was hurt after that brutal giveaway in Game 2. We did get them on the board early and thought, is Buffalo back here? But Montreal brought it on in that second period, scoring 3 straight to make it 4-1. Real tough for Buffalo to come back. And I agree, Huss. This atmosphere in Montreal, unmatched. And it does remind you of what we have here, but with a couple more people. So I'm looking forward to the next game, just to see how Buffalo responds, as well as a lot of bad blood, seemingly. Zach Benson getting under everyone's skin, as you mentioned, running of the goalie. Big Stan mixing it up when he can for Buffalo. So we'll see how that continues.
Stan was mixing up a little bit too much on the ice last night. That was the full Logan Stanley experience from a Sabres perspective. I mean, his first shift was an absolute fire drill. And he ended up making a really, I mean, tell me you haven't seen this one before. And I don't mean to pick on the guy because he did do a lot of good things this year for the Jets. But, I mean, there are some Achilles heels when it comes to Logan Stanley's game. And, you know, they're breaking out. He made a terrible pass that ended up going to Montreal instead of one of his own teammates. They quickly turned it back, put it in on the bang play. And then there was Big Stan doing the two-hander of the stick on the goalpost. And we had seen that a few times before. I mean, I think overall it's been pretty good for Stanley playing on that third pairing. He's been doing lots of penalty killing. But you got to take care of business when you're out there. And he had a rough one last night. But listen, Montreal was better at almost every angle of it. And here's the other thing, Remo. You mentioned Cole Caulfield. I mean, they're starting to get their big guys sort of waking up. I mean, Caulfield had that one. Lane Hudson put one up. Hudson, to me, was the catalyst of everything last night for Montreal. But now you're getting Slavkovsky. You're getting Caulfield on the score sheet. And that is cranking up the confidence level of the Montreal Canadiens, who seemingly have an entire province and a lot of the country behind him in this game, and Buffalo was just no match for it. But I thought the Sabres, going back to that play by Malmsteen, were showing that they were really rattled and they were trying to do something to change up the game. I am still shocked that was not a 5-minute major for running Dobish. And fortunately for the Habs, he wasn't injured, because and when was the last time you saw a guy go into a goalie with that much speed, not being pushed in, and doing absolutely nothing to avoid the hit? I can't remember it. And I thought it was kind of a whiff on the officials to not call it a 5-minute major and then review it to see whether it was. I mean, that was a 2-minute power play for the Montreal Canadiens, which is great to get a power play, but that could have easily cost them their starting goaltender, who's been probably their number one star throughout the playoffs so far.
Yeah, right in to the goalie, Malmsteen, and so much stuff going on. And look, did he get up after? Was he injured? Yes, then no suspension. That's how it works in the NHL. Huss. It doesn't matter. He's fine. Like, what was love tap? There's nothing to see there.
Speaking of suspensions, just quickly, did you see Victor Wembanyama?
Yes.
Elbow Naz Reid yesterday in that Spurs Timberwolves game. No suspension, not even a fine from the NBA for that. Absolutely shocked at that. I mean, if you haven't seen it, go to social media and just put in Wemby, and you'll see him almost decapitate a guy with his elbow. But I digress. We'll maybe hit some hoops at the end of the program if we've got some time for it. So Montreal moves on. And what can you say about the Carolina Hurricanes? Thanks for coming out, Philly. I mean, hey, they had their big win just getting into the playoffs to beat their arch rivals, the Pittsburgh Penguins, with this young, inexperienced roster in Tocchet's first year. Hard to look at the Philly season overall as anything but a success. But, man, that's a tough way to go out, just getting drummed by the Carolina Hurricanes, who now, which we mentioned earlier on, are going to have a long, long time off before meeting the winner of the Montreal-Buffalo series.
You know, to be fair, I agree. Like, it looks not great for Philly. Like, you see a sweep and you think, oh, they got smoked. But what, 2 of those games were in overtime. Another one was one of them was a late third period collapse. So I don't think it was, I think they definitely got outplayed and deserved to lose. But in the context of 2 of those games being overtime, it doesn't look as bad. The really surprising thing for me about Carolina is that top line has been pretty terrible. Aho, Svechnikov. It's been Jackson Blake, Logan Stankoven, and Taylor Hall getting all those points. You know, Nikolai Ehlers has chipped in here and there, but that line has been the driver. And for Carolina, they've needed some secondary scoring. They're getting that. And this is, they've gone to the conference finals a couple times and haven't gotten back to the Stanley Cup final, but since winning in 2006. This is certainly their year, their best chance. They have the time off. We'll see, how they look in game 1. I imagine there may be some rust, especially if this series goes long, but they are very well positioned. Healthy Freddie Anderson, who we had up there on our power poll for Conn Smythe, although maybe it's Taylor Hall who's in there.
Or Stankoven.
Or Jackson Blake. He had the OT winner. Yeah, Stankoven 7 goals. Those guys have been driving them. So congrats to Carolina on moving on. I'm curious if they can get back there.
Oh, you know what? Running Man just makes a great point. One other thing that I meant to mention at the Habs-Buffalo game is, after everything that had happened and the game was sort of out of reach, you knew it would probably get stupid at the end. How about Arbor Xhekaj just cold-cocking Carrick at the end of the game? He dropped him with a one-punch, gloves on. I haven't heard if there's going to be any sort of hearing. I think it's probably more of a fine, especially considering I would suggest Buffalo starting much of it with the running of the goalie. But you don't see that very often, and Carrick is no shrinking violet. And Xhekaj caught him right on the chin, and he went down in a heap.
There's a lot going on. Yeah, first of all, I don't like that play where a guy just has a gloved punch at a guy in a scrum when you're not. That's not great. But you also got Stan going in with the takedown from behind at one point. So there's too much to police here, Huss. I don't think we're gonna have any suspensions or fines or anything. The only hearing going on right now is that Charlie McAvoy one for the slash from
in person
a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, which I still think should be 0 games, but we'll have to see.
0 games.
Yeah, 0 games. He was fine. Nothing happened. It was justified.
I mean, hey, Zach Benson did have a big smile as he avoided the entire Bruins team and went
fine.
to the bench.
It was fine. Nothing happened there. It was fine. So I'm curious how they would justify any suspension for that.
Yeah, no, it is a. I mean, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. That could come out while we're on the program. So if that is the case, we'll definitely go there. So all of this hockey happening, and then meanwhile at a Princess Auto Stadium, Remo, the Bombers are back and training camp is underway for the Blue and Gold.
I'm starting to get excited. It's warming up. As you mentioned, the Bombers are on the practice field. So we're a couple weeks away from the CFL season kicking off. Well, a month away. What is it? June? Is it June 12? Is this home opener for the Bombers?
June 11.
Or June 11. It's May 11 today. So yes, 1 month. And for the Bombers, I mean, such a disappointing year last year. Still made the playoffs. Now everyone will make the playoffs in the CFL except for one team after the season. But the Bombers really gunning for the bye. Some big offseason additions. Tim White on offense. They needed a game breaker player. Can he be that? And another season, Zach Claris, but also the quarterback room. He's got some help if he does go down at some point. We talked about that a lot last week.
Taylor Allen's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. We've got a clip from Brady Oliveira we're going to play. We will get to Team Canada. I'm going to talk about that with Mike McIntyre. But the World Championship's getting underway this week. Friday's the first game, 10:20 or 9:20 in the morning against the Swedes. And how about this top line? Celebrini with Mark Scheifele and Gabriel Vilardi on the wings. They were eaten yesterday in a pre-tournament game against France. But before we bring in Taylor Allen, let's hear what Brady Oliveira had to say, being at camp, and, of course, a bunch of new signings and new faces with the squad.
And excited, back on the field today. Again, excited, every year, new season. You start to, you put so much work in the off season, and the speed workouts, the lifts, and you're just like wanting to get back in the field and play football. So the last few weeks, you're just chomping at the bit to get back out here, and obviously just super. Like yesterday, being in the building, doing the meetings, seeing all the guys, just it was really good, really good. A lot of good energy, and good to be back out here with the guys and compete. And I thought our energy today was really good. You should get that with day one, and now it's like, okay, well, how can we continue to improve? Tomorrow, come out here and do more, give more, get 1% better. So it's good to be back.
What do you make of adding Broxton and White to the mix?
Honestly, there's a lot of signings this offseason that I was extremely pumped about, ecstatic about. I think when you're looking at the offensive side of the ball, I mean, Tommy Neild, such an underrated dude in this league that is going to bring tremendous value to this offense. Obviously, Tim White, everyone knows what he's capable of doing in this league. I think he was a 4-time 1,000-yard receiver the last 4 years. And then obviously you add Big Brox to that offensive line that's already very dominant. I think adding him to such a good group already is just going to get us to that next level. And obviously, if you want to sign more O-linemen, I'm always happy with that, with me being a running back. So when I saw that signing, the fact that we're able to actually get that done, I was pretty shocked and obviously very, very excited because I think it'll be a great addition to the group.
All right, so there's Brady Oliveira on kicking things off with the new additions. And here he just expanded a little bit more on the excitement around training camp and, of course, new blood with the Blue Bombers to try to take them to a much higher level than they performed at last season.
Yeah, there was lots of conversations, lots of phone calls about getting other people's reactions of what they think's going on this offseason. And yeah, it was a lot of positivity, and I think we made a pretty good splash in free agency, which I think we haven't done in previous years. Again, trusting the organization, knowing that they're doing everything in the power to make the best decisions for this team. And they definitely made some waves this offseason, and I think those guys are going to come in and be, a massive part to helping us, get over that hump. Obviously last season we didn't live up to those expectations, didn't meet those standards. And then the years, it's in the past, but the years before that, we all know what happened with those Grey Cups. Like, what's going to get us past that hump? And I think the guys we brought in are going to be a great addition and allow us to get to that next step.
Do you think it was course correction from the previous year? You mentioned they didn't have any players, and it felt like you lost a fair amount of guys the year before, and then you never picked up for the Grey Cup. Did you feel like this offseason was a bit of a course correction as hey, we're the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, we belong at the top here?
Yeah, I agree. I think when you look back at the number of years, the organization's always done a pretty good job of keeping the main core together. The continuity's always been very, very good. And when you're at the top of the CFL year after year, well then, guys come in and poach and take some of your good guys. So when that happened the last number of years and guys start leaving, I felt like we were never adding. It's just we have our guys, which absolutely I'll go with my guys any day of the week, but I felt like could there have been some pieces added here and there? I think absolutely, and I think that's exactly what was done this offseason with the front office. They did one heck of a job. So yeah, really excited to see how all the pieces come together in training camp. Obviously today was a good day. We've got to keep building, keep stacking good days, and really excited to see what this product looks like when regular season comes around.
All right, there is Brady Oliveira. Bombers are back on the field getting ready for their season. And speaking of new seasons, congratulations to the Seabears. Mason Krause leading the way for the Seabears, who got a 2-point win in Edmonton to kick off their year on a winning note. Their home opener is coming up this Saturday at Canada Life Centre. All right, we're going to get into some Bomber talk in just a minute. But, folks, don't forget to pick up your tickets for the Tri-Hospital Dream Lottery at tryhospitaldream.com in support of the Health Sciences Center, the St. Boniface Hospital, and the HSC Children's Hospital. If you get your tickets in before midnight on Friday, May 22nd, you'll be eligible to be one of 11 winners in the summer bonus, worth over $95,000. Check this out. Your choice of a 2026 Land Rover Discovery Sport Landmark, valued at over $71,000. A 26 Mercedes-Benz GLC 300 4MATIC SUV, valued at almost $76,000. A $50,000 Fair Connect travel voucher plus $20,000 cash. Or you can just say, show me the money, and take $62,500 in cash. There'll also be 10 winners of the Summer Bonus Shop, a $2,000 shopping spree at St. Vital, Sia Polo Park, or Outlet Collection, Winnipeg. Or you can take $1,500 cash. That deadline is May 22nd. So get your tickets today. You can pick them up at Red River Co-op locations, London Drugs as well. And, of course, at tryhospitaldream.com, you'll be in for another what's the number on the early bird? $257,000 of early bird prizes, and of course the grand prize, $1.35 million cash, tax-free, or one of 6 dream home packages worth $1.7 million. Get those tickets today. TryHospitalDream.com. Well, we're moving into spring and summer. Maybe less heating and probably more plumbing. And of course, our friends at Clean Line are the experts in plumbing services for over 40 years. The most trusted plumbers in Winnipeg with 40 years of fast responses, lasting results, and 24/7 emergency services across all of Winnipeg. You don't plan for it, but when you are in a jam, Clean Line is there for you. Remember the number, 204-500-2001. That's 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services throughout the greater Winnipeg area. Clean Line is the residential and commercial plumbing experts of plumbing, heating, and electrical services. You can find out more online today at cleanline.ca. Well, we're getting ready to get the boats in the water, get those RVs out, start running the ATVs, dirt bikes, and more. When you're getting set to dominate the spring and summer with everything that you enjoy doing, you better make sure you got batteries. And Manitoba Battery's the place to go for all of your battery needs. You will be shopping local, keeping your money in the community. You'll be getting the best prices in town, period, beating the pants off the big box stores. And you will get the best in customer service as well, as we have heard over and over the years from our listeners that have used Manitoba Battery services. Their customer service is incredible. And hey, if you're in a jam or you're tight for time, give them a call or order online today at manitobabattery.com, and they can deliver those batteries to you. For all your battery needs, make it Manitoba Battery. Pop by and see them in store at the original spot on Logan Avenue and their new location in the south end at Dover Court Drive. And hey, if you have a move plan for this summer, make sure to hit up our friends at Rowley's Transfer, the most trusted name in moving in Manitoba for over 60 years. Rowley's, a great partner of ours, also has a great deal for WST listeners. If you are planning a move, head on over to Rowleys.com, click on Request an Estimate, and put in the promo code WST. You'll get a special discount on moving services and moving supplies for your next move, and you'll be getting moved with the white glove treatment that Rowleys has been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Rowleys, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more today at Rowleys.com. All right, as we mentioned, Bomber season or Bomber training camp is underway. Rookie camp finished up. And our pal Taylor Allen from the Winnipeg Free Press, fresh off another day at camp, joined us now. Taylor, what's going on, buddy? Great to have you back on WST.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's football season, so life is good, or almost football season, I should say.
Well, we got to get a little more football weather here. This has kind of felt like playoff weather for the last week or so, but things are looking up. Hey, listen, before we kind of dive into training camp, first off, what were the big takeaways from rookie camp? I imagine all eyes on Taylor Elgersma to start off, and even if you weren't looking for it, kind of hard not to notice him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the quarterback room in general was the big story in rookie camp and still is now in training camp. I mean, everyone wants to know about Taylor Elgersma, and I mean, it's only been a few days of camp and whatnot, but he certainly looks the part so far. I mean, just standing next to the guy, he's 6'5", super confident speaker. You know, one of the first days, there's probably a scrum of 10 reporters around the guy and just had so much confidence. It didn't matter what anyone asked him. He just seemed like a seasoned vet. And more importantly than that, obviously, is what he could do as an actual player on the field. And his arm, Huss, seems like the real deal. There's been a few corner routes that he's thrown deep down the field where it kind of makes you go like, holy crap, like that's a big time throw that not everyone can make. And then, you know, we've seen some reps from some of the other guys, and there's been some good moments from some of those guys too. But so far, and again, it's just been, you know, 3 days of rookie camp, 2 days of training camp. Nothing crazy, but so far, I mean, he looks like the best quarterback after Zach Claris. So, yeah, I'm not trying to get everyone too excited. We'll see what he can do in the preseason maybe. But, yeah, so far, the reason why this guy had hype, this year away from the CFL as he was trying for the Packers in the UFL. It makes sense now seeing him in person for sure.
Well, I mean, and Bryce Perkins was the other guy that came in, a former UFL MVP. I saw an interesting post from Chris Streveler on the weekend of a bunch of video from their workouts together, I guess down in Arizona, which was neat. I mean, obviously quarterback is so important. We know who the number one guy is. Is there any sort of pecking order right now as we begin training camp? Does somebody, let's put it this way, did somebody start with a leg up on the backup job?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Terry Wilson who's going to get the leg up for sure, just the fact that he is in year 3. But, I mean, that doesn't guarantee him anything. I mean, Mike O'Shea is arguably the most loyal coach in all of pro sports for sure. But I mean, if Taylor Elgersma is going to be looking this much better than Terry Wilson, I mean, how can you justify going with Terry? And, Terry's a guy that I've been watching very closely, and story with him these past 2 years as he's been kind of learning the ropes and whatnot is the fact that he has a hell of an arm too, and he's a great athlete and he can make every throw in the field. However, it seems every, third, fourth, or fifth rep from Terry is just an extremely kind of boneheaded throw that gets picked off. He had an interception today, actually, and I think he had one yesterday too. So, so I don't know if I'm the Bombers, if I'd feel super confident in having Terry Wilson as number 2. So yeah, that obviously that opens the door to Taylor, to Bryce Perkins, to even Peyton Thorne, one of these CFL newcomers to come in and take that number 2 job from a guy like Terry. And Bryce Perkins, I mean, hell of a resume. I mean, this guy was a UFL MVP. He spent time with the Rams. He even started an NFL game against your Kansas City Chiefs, us. Of course, he lost that one going up against Patty Mahomes. But, hey, still a pretty cool thing for him to say that he got in there. And even has a Super Bowl ring. He won a Super Bowl with the Rams as a backup, obviously. But, I would say so far, Bryce Perkins, and again, it's only been 5 days and whatever, but so far it's been kind of disappointing with him. His arm talent isn't the same as Zach or Taylor's. Obviously, I mean, he's a heck of an athlete. Like, just go watch his UFL highlights, and he's a dangerous player with his legs. And, if a play breaks down, like, he could turn nothing into something, right? He's one of those guys for sure. So maybe that's a guy you could keep around, use him as a short yardage quarterback, and, hopefully develop him, and maybe he can become a better passer. I don't know. He is already kind of a bit older compared to some of these other guys, but yeah, so I'd say he's been a bit disappointing, if I'm being honest. And Peyton Thorne, I haven't seen a ton from him. Definitely a guy worth keeping an eye on, though. I mean, played at Michigan State, helped them to an 11-win season as a sophomore. Ended at Auburn. His college career didn't end as well there, but he played with the Bengals a little bit in the preseason last year. So yeah, for the first time in a long time, it's been an actual interesting quarterback battle here in Winnipeg. The past few years, it's been obvious who the number 2 is going to be. So this has been honestly kind of a refreshing, fun training camp, because I mean, who doesn't love assessing quarterbacks and watching quarterback play?
Oh, listen, I mean, I'm one that feels that, that competition is important, especially in professional football, to have guys, battling for positions, have performance matter and mean something. And I'll be honest, this is why. And I get it. I mean, this team has been very loyal. They like their guys that have been part of the program. But for me, like, I didn't give Terry Wilson a huge step up on either of these guys, maybe outside of the first day or two, because the fact of the matter is, Taylor, you look at the challenges that they've had in the quarterback position over the last few years, and they have basically avoided any opportunity to put Terry Wilson in. So to me, he may have an advantage because he's been here longer, but I really do think that we're going to see all of these guys get opportunities, show what they can do every day in practice. And you would think that the guy that has shown the best will be the guy that is next man up after Zach when things get going.
Yeah, I mean, Terry Wilson was the most popular guy in Winnipeg last year when Chris Streveler was in there kind of stinking it up a little bit as a passer. I mean, it wasn't all Chris's fault. Obviously, there's some injuries on the team and the first-year OC and whatnot. But yeah, there were some pretty ugly passing performances last year under Strevy, and I think everyone in Bomberland was itching to see Terry. And then finally, Terry gets that start. End of the year, meaningless game, but whatever, he gets that start at home against Montreal, and that wasn't super pretty either. I think he passed for under 100 yards or just around 100 yards, and had a few kind of questionable throws in that game and, did some damage with his legs and whatnot. But yeah, definitely didn't do enough to make you go, okay, this guy could be our number 2 next year for sure. So yeah, I mean, I can't say I usually look forward to Bombers preseason games, but I'm looking forward to the 2 that they're going to have this year. Because I mean, all these guys are going to get a chance out there. Might just be a quarter, might just be a half. We'll see. But I mean, you have to give all 4 of these guys a chance and see what these guys can do. And just early on in camp, Terry was always the kind of the second guy after Zach, getting reps and whatnot. But I did notice today actually that Taylor Elgersma for some of the drills, he was the guy coming in right after Zach. So does that mean anything? Maybe not. But yeah, I mean, Terry's definitely he's not guaranteed anything. He's definitely gonna have to work for that number 2 or even number 3 job, honestly.
Well, the number 3 is fascinating in that, that has traditionally been sort of a short yardage guy for most CFL teams over the last number of years. And I mean, you look at the quarterbacks, who would you think be best suited in that role? It's probably the 6'6" monster. But if he does get that backup job, that's not usually a spot where you want your backup quarterback rolling in and getting jumped on by, 300-pound linemen. So I am quite interested to see how the 2 and the 3 spot goes. I imagine Elgersma is going to be on this team. And is it Perkins? Is it Terry Wilson? Do they go with a guy that they think is more best suited for that short yardage role? Because that's probably going to be what they're doing, or are they looking at just the best quarterback and they'll figure it out? You're exactly right. I mean, the quarterback conversation around the Bombers has not been as interesting as this in a very, very long time. Part of the success of the quarterbacks is who they're throwing to. Tim White's in the fold now. Tommy Neal, who we just heard Brady Oliveira talk about. I mean, what stood out to you amongst the receivers and the receiving core early on in camp?
Yeah, I mean, Pokey Wilson has looked fantastic. There was a ball today that Zach underthrew. There was 2 guys draped all over Pokey, and you're like, oh, this one's getting knocked down for sure. And somehow Pokey, who isn't the biggest guy out there, but he outmuscles those 2 guys and hauls it in and, kind of bails out Zach on that play. And yeah, so Pokey's looked fantastic, and Tim Wade as well. I mean, him and Zach have shown some immediate chemistry as well. I remember yesterday they connected twice deep downfield on passes. And yeah, I mean, Nick Dembski's obviously doing Nick Dembski things. And Tommy Neal is a guy that the Bombers signed so many big name free agents that he's maybe being overlooked a tiny bit, but this is a guy who's won everywhere that he's been. Toronto, Saskatchewan, had that game-winning touchdown in the West Final last year for the Riders, and I think he's going to be a huge boost to this room because after Nick Dembski last year, the Bombers just didn't really have a strong Canadian pass catcher. So yeah, this receiver room, I was kind of talking to Nick Dembski about it yesterday, actually. This receiver room has a lot more promise and more depth than they did last year. I mean, quite often last year, it just felt like it was the Nick Dembski show, right? Dalton Schoen got hurt early. Ontario Wilson didn't join the team until after he got cut from the Jets. So yeah, for the longest time, it's kind of just like Nick Dembski or bust. Guys like Carrick Wheatfall, Jareth Stearns flashed a little bit. They just weren't that consistent. But yeah, this year, definitely a stronger receiver room, definitely a stronger O-line, obviously, with Jarrell Broxton, now an experienced OC as well. So the table is set, Huss, for Zach Claris to have a big year, but we'll see.
Yeah, listen, Broxton, I mean, he was the number 1 guy on the free agent board, not just number 1 of offensive linemen. And, have him come in and hold down the other side with Stanley Bryan, I think puts them in a much different situation moving forward. Speaking of the offense, you mentioned Tommy Condell. Early on in training camp, any indication of how different this offense might look? Or is this more very preliminary reps of simple drills, and we'll kind of find that out more down the road?
Yeah, I think we'll find that out more down the road. I think it's a bit too early to really kind of know how much different this offense is going to look under Tommy and whatnot. But I mean, just talking to the guys, though, they're all definitely excited to have him. Every sports show in Winnipeg, every newspaper, every blogger, every podcaster was talking last year, ripping their hair out about this offense under Jason Hogan. And he had a great opening game, that first game with Chris Streveler under center, and everyone was like, okay, maybe the Bombers have something here. And it wasn't too long after that when people kind of realized, like, okay, the Jason Hogan experiment isn't working out so well. So Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I mean, anytime there's a new OC, it's going to take some time for everyone to get on the same page and whatnot. But the fact that him and Zach already have a history together, they've been good friends for years. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to hit the ground running, quarter one, week one, but I mean, you'd have to think though that the transition will be much easier as opposed to bringing in a brand new guy. So yeah, I think we'll have a pretty good idea as to what this offense is all about. Probably even just a few weeks into the year.
You know what's so interesting about this offense for the 2026 Bombers is that Hogan's still in the fold. He's the running backs coach. And listen, Condell has the reputation of a guy that is, has a real pass-happy offense. The Bombers, really start off with establishing the run, and certainly the improvement in the offensive line has to help protect Zach, but also the running game. I'm really interested to see, where is the balance between the pass game and the run game, because they're going to want to get Brady Oliveira the football, and even if it's not with as many carries as he traditionally had, also will be interesting to see whether he maybe gets a few more in the passing game as well, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as they say, and the more Brady Oliveira, the better. And finding creative ways to get him the football, I'm sure, will be a real focus of Condell as well.
There were too many games last year where it was like, why is Brady not getting the ball more? I mean, he's as we all know, he's the best running back in the league, and he's a great ball carrier. But you're right, he's also a fantastic receiver out of the backfield as well. So I think some people are concerned that, okay, well, Tommy comes from this background that's super pass heavy, and he's never really had a running back finishing, in the top in the league and in rushing, or even close to the top of the league in rushing. But there's no way he's not going to find ways to put the ball in number 20's arms. That's for sure, whether it's handing it off or passing the ball to him. But yeah, I mean, also this O-line too. I mean, they're better at the tackle spots, but there's some questions in the interior with this team as well. So we'll see what that looks like. I mean, Chris Kolankowski, veteran center, longtime Bomber. He was cut in the offseason, and now Tuieli, he's the favorite to take over at center. And this is a guy entering his 6th season in Winnipeg, and he's obviously a very patient guy to hang around this long and just be okay being the 6th O-lineman and and whatnot. But he has a chance to take over at center now, so we'll see what that's all about. And then there's no guarantee who'll be playing next to him if Gabe Wallace will be the starter this year or not. I mean, he's a young Canadian. He's a mountain of a kid. He is just massive, and he started 16 games last year. But the Bombers have some pretty intriguing American guards in camp as well. So there is a version of this story where the Bombers roll into week one with 3 Americans on the O-line potentially. So that'd be interesting to see as well.
Defensively, we're going to get a chance to see Jake Serezna do his thing for the Bombers as opposed to against the Blue Bombers, which is exciting. But, big picture for the defense, what are the position areas that seem to have the most competition? And was there any sort of standouts from the defensive side of the football coming out of camp that had people talking in the stands?
Well, Deshaun Dixon, he's a defensive end. He played 3 games for the Jacksonville Jaguars, made the team as an undrafted, made the 53-man roster 2-3 years ago as an undrafted rookie. So that's always super impressive. His first NFL tackle, he only played 3 games, but his first NFL tackle, he took down Saquon Barkley. So that goes to show something about this kid. But anyways, yesterday in camp, he was going up against the one and only Stanley Bryant, and he knocked Stan on his ass. He ran right through him, knocked him over. Everyone was kind of like, whoa, okay. And I mean, and Stan, he's 40 years old, right? He's in camp. He said to me today, he's like, I hate training camp, man. So it's like, I'm sure he wasn't giving his best. And every guy on that field's been knocked on their ass before. It's football, and we all know that. But it was just kind of a pretty jarring thing to see that this guy, Deshaun Dixon, who has a chance to be maybe potentially a starting defensive end on the opposite side of that D-line across from Willie Jefferson, with Jake Serezna, a guy that they can use in the interior quite a bit, making a big splash like that. So keep an eye out for Deshaun Dixon, number 90 potentially. On that D-line.
And we are into training camp, but just thinking back to rookie camp, but we kind of talked about the quarterbacks, but anybody impressed, and how many of the players that were trying to get a shot at training camp actually graduated to the full group?
Sorry, you cut out there for a second, so I'll have to get a repeat the question.
No problem. I was just saying how coming out of rookie camp, and I know we sort of focused on the quarterbacks, but any other people that really kind of caught people's eye, and how many of them kind of graduated to the main group after showing they belonged in the main camp in rookies?
Well, only 8 guys, I believe, were cut from rookie camp. So there's still a bazillion bodies on the field and whatnot. So still lots of young guys have a chance to show what they can do. And we'll definitely learn more once the actual preseason is happening. But after the quarterbacks, I think that the next guy that everyone was kind of looking at was Dante Daniels, the tight end that they traded up in the second round to get. I mean, you see it in the NFL in every round, basically, constantly teams trading up and whatnot, but you don't see it that often in the CFL. And the Bombers, they traded an additional second round pick to move up just a handful of spots to pick this kid out of North Carolina State, Dante Daniels, this big tight end. But they're super excited about what he could do as a tight end and as a blocker for this team. And he's definitely proven to be a bit green as a passing or as a route runner, I should say. But as a blocker, though, he's definitely shown some promise and shown why maybe they think so highly of him.
I know they're going to get down to about 75 tomorrow, so we'll have maybe a bit clearer focus on who's sticking around from that group. Taylor, great stuff. I imagine daily coverage from you in the pages of the Winnipeg Free Press as we get the show on the road for Bombers in 2026.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Taylor. There's Taylor Allen. Check out all the latest on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Freep with Taylor. We're going to go to his colleague, Mike McIntyre, coming up in just a moment. I do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto. Speaking of Princess Auto Stadium, home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Princess Auto, synonymous with Winnipeg, headquartered and founded right here in the Peg, and now serving Canadians coast to coast with the best deals, the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon. And as always, you can shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. You know, we were talking about Manitoba Battery and all the stuff that you want to be getting your batteries for the summer. Well, most of that stuff is waiting for you at Chud's Power Sports up in Gimli, Manitoba's preeminent power sports superstore, in business for 80 years up the corner of Highway 8 and 231. Right now, they've got amazing deals on ATVs, start of season deals on motorcycles and dirt bikes. Don't forget RVs and trailers, and of course, boats as well. Chud's has staff that have been there for, I think Dermot was telling me, a total combined of about 140 years. They know it all. Great financing programs and amazing used equipment and items as well. It's all waiting for you at Chud's Power Sports. So pop up and see them in Gimli. Check them out at chudspowersports.com. And by the way, top right corner of the website, you'll see, click on that red e-commerce store. It'll take you to True North Parts with some great clearance items and deals on merchandise as well as apparel. Shout out to the Germinator and the gang. We'll have a couple Chud's Power Sports power polls coming up later on this week on Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, gang. Time to get down and see Dr. Terry and the great people at St. Vital Dental Center. They, of course, have been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans and can do that for you as a long-term home for you and your family. They've got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with convenient free parking right behind the building and a wide array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. They do it all at St. Vital Dental Center. So check them out online and make an appointment, stvitaldental.ca, and say hi to our pal Dr. Terry when you go in to get your teeth taken care of. And just before we bring in Mike McIntyre, man, great night to be at BP tonight. 8 o'clock start. Wild, Avalanche. That is the main game tonight. Obviously, we got to wait a couple days. There will be no Carolina Hurricanes for the next little while. So it's all eyes on, for my money, the best series right now in the playoffs. Looking for a great spot? Pop by your local Boston Pizza. Check out that new playoff menu with the wing flights, pizza flights, the MVP platter, and more. ice cold schooners waiting for you as well. And of course, if you are staying at home to watch the game, get the great taste of Boston Pizza by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's bring in Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press. Mike, what's going on? How are you?
Well, a whole bunch of things, actually. Gold ice season getting underway.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and looks like we're going to get some decent weather for it too, which is nice. I was out at spring training, or I guess it was spring training, more like winter training last week with some of the fellas on the team. They were like, it was about 4 degrees. I think it was Wednesday I was down there, and guys were wearing toques and mitts, and some of these players from like Dominican and Mexico, these guys are wondering, just I think maybe questioning some life choices at that point. I assured them that warmer weather was on the way, but it's actually, I know you had I think you had Andrew on last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a really interesting mix of players this year. I'm going to be doing a little more gold ice coverage than I maybe have in the last few years, just with the Jets bowing out a little earlier here. So baseball's always been my second favorite sport beyond hockey. So I'm really excited actually about kind of jumping in, doing a little more gold eyes this year, some player profiles, some features, that sort of thing. And they got some really interesting guys, a couple players that were on that played for Aruba at the World Baseball Classic. Good mix of Canadians, Americans. They have a fellow from the Netherlands. They should be a good group. Logan Watkins has assembled a pretty good team. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to the long weekend. I would have been looking forward to a little more playoff hockey coverage, but unfortunately the Manitoba Moose, maybe not surprisingly, met their match.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get to the hockey stuff. And just as we do that, I should mention this segment's brought to you by our friends at the Prairie Toyota Dealers and the Toyota Tacoma. Standard I-Force engine boasts an impressive towing capacity of up to 6,400 pounds. In fact, it's the most powerful Tacoma ever. So whether you're hauling gear to the rink or heading to an away game, you can tackle it with ease. And when it's time to load up, the available power liftgate makes loading your gear in and out a cinch. Experience power, capability, and convenience with the Toyota Tacoma. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Prairie Toyota dealer during Red Tag Days from March through May. Yeah, you mentioned we may as well start off with the Moose. Disappointing and not really surprising considering what a juggernaut they were going up against. But I will say, Mike, winning that first series, getting some more playoff experience, obviously good for some young players. And I mean, to me, when you look back at the body of work over the 7 games, I thought Braden Yeager really kind of carried some momentum from his NHL call-up, certainly more than Brad Lambert did. But maybe the story of it was some eye-opening goaltending performances, particularly from Dom DiVincentis.
Yeah, so much so that, you wonder what the plan is heading into this offseason for the Jets when it comes to Connor Hellebuck's backup, right? Eric Comrie is a free agent. That being said, I would not be shocked at all, Huss, if Eric Comrie re-ups with the Jets. We know the relationship that he has with the organization, obviously the great relationship with Connor Hellebuck. And, I think that all things being equal, that's probably the path they go down. But certainly, Dom DiVincentis especially, his stock rose significantly in these playoffs for sure. Now, if you're the Jets and you've got, a couple of young goalies in DiVincentis and Milic, like what is best right now for their development? Is DiVincentis better served, being an NHL backup next season and playing 15 games, maybe
No.
20?
The answer to that's a no.
And so I think at this stage, he's better served to take the yeoman's work with the Moose and be ready, if injury hit as it did last year, and go with a more veteran backup. But for sure, the Jets have to feel a lot better about the goaltending pipeline with DiVincentis, right at the top of that list. And I think they did. And, I think they also probably have to feel pretty good about what they have on the blue line, Huss. We talked last week about Garrett Brown. He looked terrific in what ended up being, I guess, 4 games that he played once Elias Salomonson was injured. Isaac Phillips to me was noticeable in a good way. And he's a young guy that we did see up with the Jets a couple points in this past season. I think they like what they have in him. We talked about Terrell Bauer. Is he an NHL regular? Probably not. Is he a guy that can play NHL games and provide some value and the kind of play that they probably are sorely lacking? Absolutely. So, and you mentioned Yager for sure. Lucas Wallen, unfortunately, he was hurt for the last game the other day and didn't get in the lineup. There's a lot to like about it, but you're right. I mean, this was a juggernaut that they faced. It would not surprise me at all, Huss, if Grand Rapids is hoisting the Calder Cup in early June at some point. They are now the favorites. And in fact, I don't know if you noticed, the only team better than them during the regular season was Providence, and they were upset in the last round. They're already out. They lost a couple of overtime games. So Grand Rapids is the best team still playing hockey. And, so the Moose, they can cling to the fact that they played a pretty defensively stingy brand of hockey against a really good team. They won that first game, which probably provided some additional hope that an upset could be in the making. In the end, though, the cream rose to the top, as you kind of expect, and the Moose just didn't have the weaponry to go toe-to-toe with a team like Grand Rapids.
Just wrapping up the Moose, and we're going to talk a bit more about the end of the season and the season overall with Dan Fink a little bit later on. When you look at the guys that have contracts coming up at the end of the year, David Gustafson's one of them. He's an RFA with arbitration. Jared Anderson-Dolan, another one. I would imagine those guys will probably be in the mix. And I would love David Gustafson, frankly, to get a better shot legitimately than he probably did this year. The guy, though, that really intrigued me, and certainly from the way that he played, I thought he was probably the best Moose forward over the playoffs, certainly at times, was Walker Duehr. And Duehr had a strong season, never really got significant playing time with the Winnipeg Jets. I do wonder whether Duehr is back next year with an opportunity to come in and compete for potentially a few open spots in the lineup at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and he's a guy curiously did not get more of an opportunity with the Jets, because I think when he did come up, all of us who watched him play I remember my first reaction was basically, why wasn't this guy up here sooner? And, then they ultimately squeezed him back out. And obviously by the end of the year, they had some kids that they were playing, that sort of thing. It was a bit surprising that Walker Duehr did not get another chance to come back up with the Jets down the stretch, because I really liked what he brought to the team. He brought the sort of things that they were sorely missing: speed, hard on the forecheck, some physicality, some energy. And that was something that the Jets were just sorely lacking. And we've kind of beaten the topic to death about how the Jets clung to what they had, even as the ship was sort of taking on water. And, essentially for the longest time, they were just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, Huss. But not calling anybody up as the season began to swirl down the drain. And, it was only through injury that Walker Duehr came up in the first place, but his performance in a limited role suggested that he should have been up much sooner. And so, I don't know what he's thinking personally. Like, is he a little put off by how this season went, thinking, well, geez, I should have got more of a chance with the big club, and I didn't. I'm going to go to another organization that maybe they'll give me a better shot. Or, is he hopeful that some lessons got learned this year and that he will be given more of a chance? I would hope it's the latter, because I agree he's a guy that can bring some real value to this team.
It's a double-edged sword if you're him. I think when you look at the season that they had and look at the roster and realize, hey, like, I'm on the cusp, this might be a spot where, I feel like I can go in and compete, maybe earn a spot on the team. That's the one side. The other side is, this season was such a disaster for the Winnipeg Jets. I'm there playing well, and I never really got a shot. And you wonder what will win out, as well as how many other teams are knocking on his door come July 1, assuming that he's not signed before then.
It's the old sort of devil you know versus the devil you don't. I mean, on one hand, I agreed, Huss. He knows, he now knows this organization. The organization knows him a lot better now than they did a year ago when they signed him. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And, you go to a new organization, and in some ways, it's got to feel like you're starting over, right? And does he want to start over, or does he feel like he's now enough of a proven commodity here that he'll get more of a shot going forward? And I guess some of that will depend on what happens this summer with whether we see any buyouts or trades, what they do on July 1. If you're Walker Duehr, you're probably a guy, let's face it, you might be signing a day or two after July 1st, once the dust starts to settle. So I guess, him and his agent, you could almost see what the Jets look like on like July 2nd, for example, before you make your decision. And if all of a sudden you're looking at it and going, wow, there's a real opportunity there, then that's probably, something you look at. If on the other hand, it's like, well, that's even more crowded than it was before, you look elsewhere. So yeah, I agree. He was really good in the playoffs. And Gustafson's another interesting one to me, Huss, because like, I wonder at some point, whether it's with another organization, whether it's back in Europe, if that is something that would be on David Gustafson's radar at all. And, conversely, again, there's another guy. He never even got a whiff this year by the Jets. Like, they didn't look his way once. And did the Jets, did they qualify him, or did they let him walk into free agency and clear up a roster spot? I don't know the answer to that. I guess in some ways, I feel like the Jets kind of told us what they thought of him by how he was handled this year, which is that they didn't think much of him.
Well, they gave Jonathan Toews his number, and then Toews came in, started at 2C, and by the end of the season, he was basically playing in David Gustafson's old role as the 4C. I think a lot of it is tied into, what we find out from Jonathan Toews. And just on that, I mean, I know we've spoken about this afterwards. I think it certainly kind of felt like maybe that was it when we heard from Jonathan Toews. He did say he was going to take a couple weeks to sort of figure it out. Well, we're past that. Any ideas to when there might be some clarity on Toews' situation?
Yeah, I do think it's coming soon, Huss. And I think not that the team wants to put a ton of pressure on him.
They need to know.
But I think everybody recognizes the importance of this decision. Toews is not going to hold the Jets hostage while he pontificates, into the summer, for example. Like you can't do that. And so, I think they want to be respectful of the magnitude of the decision and what he's wrestling with. But I do think it's coming soon because let's face it, for most hockey players, Huss, like your season ends, you take a few weeks to sort of decompress. You probably, don't go to the rink a whole lot unless you're Mark Scheifele or something. But, and you probably just put the sticks and the equipment away for a bit and just relax. But now, for a team that was eliminated when the Jets were, you're starting to now get back into that time when, okay, now we got to start working on our off-season workouts and ramp things up a little bit. Does Jonathan Toews want to go through that? Is he going to commit to that? And if he's not, I think we have our answers. So I think the couple week timeline, and I quite frankly, Huss, I don't know what form this is going to take in terms of a discussion. Obviously, like let's just say he decides he's returning. Well, we might hear that the Jets have re-signed him, right? That would be an announcement. But if he's retiring, what form does that take? Do the Jets call a news conference as he formally announces his retirement and has a bit of a farewell, media conference? Is it something the NHL Players Association just puts out? Is it something one of the insiders just leaks out through an agent? And I don't know the answer. This isn't a road we've really been down before.
No, and to be honest, I think if it did go down that way, I'd almost put my money on signing a one-day deal with the Blackhawks to retire a Hawk.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I mean, like this whole thing, and I think he feels a lot of gratitude to the opportunity with the Jets and the way, you know, the organization treated and handled him. That was very clear at the end of the season. But, I mean, this guy is going to go down as an NHL legend, and it's not going to be wearing a Jet jersey in the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's going to be on a Blackhawk one. So,
yeah,
I do think, and I mean, listen, I don't think the Jets would feel slighted in the least if that was the case. I mean, obviously, he finished his career on the ice as a Winnipeg Jet, but if that is it for him, it would almost be surprising to me if there wasn't some. We saw the way he was treated and celebrated in Chicago this year when he showed up as a visiting player.
We did, yeah. And I mean, you know, if I had to quantify it, Huss, like I'm leaning heavily towards that he's done. Like I'd put it in the 80% range that I think that's it for him. You know, leaving the door open ever so slightly that he could come back. But yeah, I think all the signs, the messaging, what we saw in the room on exit day, the way he was embracing teammates, signing sticks, a lot of those hugs with teammates felt like, you know, not just see you in the fall, like have a great summer hugs. It felt like goodbye, you know, what we were witnessing there. So, but again, I can't get inside his head. I don't know what he's thinking. No doubt this season did not go the way he hoped. He wanted to experience the whiteout. He wanted to play playoff games. But you know what, Huss? I mean, even if he were to decide to come back, there's no guarantee this team's going to the playoffs next year. Obviously, they hope they are, and that this was a one-off and that they can get right back on track. But, you know, if you're chasing something that you're hoping comes to fruition, and again, given his age and whatnot, I believe he's done. I believe he's going to announce his retirement. I just don't know when or in what fashion that announcement is going to take.
You know, I think it was Brent Bellamy going, why seriously? Why are we talking about Dewar in the NHL? I mean, I think it's more a conversation of some guys that probably were playing at a higher level than players were here this year, which was certainly something that was frustrating for a lot of people. And this wouldn't be the first time where some guys kind of toiled with the Moose, didn't get a shot here, and then maybe went elsewhere. So, I mean, it's just an interesting...
Jeffrey VL. Hello, Jeffrey VL.
Dude, the VL thing is just crazy. And the way, like, Q in one-goal games keeps throwing out VL, Ross Johnson. I mean, he has the maybe it's the confidence of having the cup wins and everything that he's done in the past, but he seems to operate and run his lines with a level of conviction to his players that is different than most others in the NHL. And it's kind of been wild seeing what VL's been doing in the playoffs right now. That was a fourth-round pick to the Boston Bruins. It seems to be very much worth it with what they're doing so far.
How about Jansen Harkins playing over Mason McTavish the other day? Now, I know yesterday they switched it back, but again, you're right. Quenneville, he is not afraid to make decisions that may have, and you know what? To their credit, his team has responded to pretty much every button he pushes seems to be the right one.
Yeah, no doubt. Mike, I think we spoke with you the day of the lottery last week, so we haven't really talked about the aftermath of it. Obviously, we know the team is picking 8th right now. Thoughts on what might be available for the Jets at 8 and who might be the apple of Chevy and the scouting staff's eye?
Well, let me just say on a purely personal, somewhat selfish reason, I was a little disappointed to see them fall because my hope, after spending a full day with the Carroll's family out in Cypress River, getting to know Carson and his parents and siblings and the hundreds of animals they have on their farm, what an incredible young man, what an incredible family. And I can tell you, they were all hoping that things could work out, that Carson would get drafted by the Jets. I just don't think now at 8 that's going to happen. I really don't. I mean, I'm seeing some mocks, Huss, I believe, was it Craig Button, in fact, that has Carson going second to the Sharks? Somebody had, someone legitimate. It might have been Craig. If not, my apologies, it's someone else. But
I think it might have been Cam Robinson over at Elite Prospects.
Okay. But so I've seen him as early as 2, but most have Carson Carroll's now going probably in the 4, 5, or 6 range. Like that gauntlet of Chicago, the New York Rangers, and the Calgary Flames, all of whom could use a defenseman. And obviously this draft is heavy on really high quality D. I don't think Carson Carroll's is still there at 8. Now, he probably wouldn't have been there either at 7 had the Jets not fallen down a spot, but there was at least a slightly increased chance that maybe he's there at 7. Now, that being said, I don't know if the Jets would have taken him. I would like to think that they would recognize the value of both what he can do, but also just having a homegrown guy, a homegrown star. But so I don't know if they would have looked his way. Like, I do think the Jets probably should be looking more to a forward. And that's where it gets really interesting at 8, Huss, because, I think we can assume that Caleb Malhotra is gone. Again, some mocks have him going as early as 3 to the Canucks. I don't know if he's, obviously there's a Vancouver connection with his dad, Manny, who's coaching their AHL team right now, and many see as the next coach of the Canucks. But whether he goes at 3 or falls a few more spots, I just don't think he's going to be there at 7. Again, could he have been there at 8? Might he have been there at 7 had they not fallen down a spot? Yeah, I could see that. So now we look to the next tier, right? And then obviously we talk about centers and Winnipeg's need. The 2 that I've now spent much of the past week kind of studying and reading up on and watching video of are Bjork and Lawrence, because those are the 2 that I think their names keep coming up. There's a lot of speculation that one would end up with the Jets, and they're very different players, right? I mean, Bjork is a fascinating player to me, and that he's so undersized by NHL standards. 5'9", just made the Swedish World Championship team, really without a doubt. And he's been playing against bigger, stronger men and quite frankly, dominating. And I just love that he's been called the Swedish Braden Point. And that's the kind of player, my goodness, the Jets could sure use a guy like that. Tynan Lawrence is interesting as well. The production, of course, wasn't there to the degree that maybe some would like at BU. But, he's a guy, Huss, that go back a year ago, he was in the conversation for potential 1st or 2nd overall. And, he's a Canadian kid playing in U.S. college hockey, but, again, a lot to really like. And so if the Jets are leaning towards a center, I think one or both of those guys is probably going to be available at 8 in Bjork or Lawrence. And, that's perhaps where the Jets look. Now, if they are looking on the blue line, like Albert Smits is a really interesting defenseman. That again, some have projected to go way earlier. Some think he's still going to be around. I saw him play at the Olympics for Latvia, and I admit he caught my eye. Like I remember kind of asking, who is this kid out there? And then finding out that he's actually draft eligible. You're like, wow, this kid is more than impressive at that age and state of his career. So yeah, there's some really interesting names. And then I guess there's the whole, do they even make the pick at 8? Do they look to trade? Do they look to trade up? I mean, there's a lot of rumblings, Huss, that teams like San Jose and Chicago could possibly be looking at moving their pick for more immediate help. Is that something that the Jets would be looking to jump into? And if so, what would the price be? Maybe they could get Carson Carroll's after all, depending on how things shake out. So lots to speculate about over these next 6 weeks before we hit draft day.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of moving up and down like in the NFL in the National Hockey League draft. But, considering the unique situations of the Sharks and the Blackhawks at 2 and 4, I wouldn't rule it out. I do have a hard time wrapping my head around what exactly that would look like. There's no Jimmy Johnson sort of draft board where each pick is worth what it is. And obviously it depends on the player that's available, especially with that. But I am sort of with you on that. I think if there was a chance the Jets could maneuver to get Carroll's, they would love to do that. My read on this is McKenna's going to be gone. Stenberg's going to be gone. Malholtra's probably going to be gone. And then you've got this group of defensemen, Chase Reed, Keaton Verhoff, Carson Carrolls, Albert Smits, and Daxon Rudolph. And then, of course, the two centers. Yeah. So, I mean, if it goes that way, and let's just say it's Reed, Verhoff, Carrolls, we'll wonder to see what Seattle does. If Seattle goes with Smits, then you're basically looking at Rudolph, Lawrence, and Bjork as sort of the three guys that you might potentially take. If Rudolph goes early, one of those other defensemen will have slipped to 8, and then the choice on the two centers. So all of
Rudolph,
that...
Rudolph's another fascinating one. And in fact, if I had to give you a list of 4 names, and I think that the odds are the Jets end up with one of them, it would be Bjork and Lawrence up front, and it would be Smits and Rudolph on the back end. And Rudolph is fascinating, Alberta kid. This sounds like a guy the Jets already have on their team. Alberta kid playing in the dub for the Prince Albert Raiders. That is Josh Morrissey. Now, Daxon Rudolph is a bit bigger. He's 6'3", 206, putting up absolutely monster numbers, 78 regular season points. And Huss, in the playoffs, he's found an even higher level, 9 goals and 17 assists in 17 playoff games so far this spring for the Prince Albert Raiders. Just a monster performance. And he's the kind of player, imagine the Jets were to draft a Daxon Rudolph, he could slide right in and play with Josh Morrissey. You could have the Prince Albert connection. So, yeah, I mean, the bottom line, I know some people were a little bummed that the Jets, obviously didn't move up and that they fell a spot. Bottom line, they're still going, assuming they make the pick, they are going to get an elite prospect who will instantly, in my opinion, become their top prospect no matter what.
No, it's a great point. Hey, listen, just before we go, Dan Fink's going to jump on. We're going to wrap Moose season and take a trip out to the Downs as well and see our pal Darren Dunn. For people that are missing the Jets, World Championships coming up, and how about that top line? Captain Macklin Celebrini in between Mark Scheifele and Gabriel Vilardi, and it looks like Dylan DeMello's found himself on the top pairing out of the gate as well.
Yeah, and that line in yesterday's preseason game, they absolutely clicked. A couple notable things, Huss. First of all, Mark Scheifele is playing the wing. He's on the left wing.
They're not moving Celebrini to the wing for Scheif, with all due respect.
And by the way, that's Captain Celebrini, which, again, considering John Tavares, Ryan O'Reilly are on that team. I love the fact that they made Macklin Celebrini, because again, I saw him at the Olympics. There's nothing ordinary about this kid at all. He is extraordinary, and he is going to be the face of Canadian hockey for the next decade plus. I mean, there's other faces obviously right now, in Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby, but he's the present and the future. I love the fact that they've handed him the reins of the captaincy. And yeah, what a fun line. I mean, I'm sure Scheifele and Vilardi are instantly having a pretty good time. Now, Huss, maybe they could convince Macklin to
request a trade to the Jets. That's
Macklin Celebrini for the 8th overall pick. Who says no, except San Jose and every other rational, sane hockey fan?
8th pick and the Jets' next 5 first-rounders. It would still be thanks, but no thanks. Mike, great stuff. We'll catch up soon. Be well, and we'll see at maybe the ball game, Gold Ice home opener coming up in a week and a day.
I will be there. And just a quick note, I've got, you mentioned the Downs. I was at the launch dinner luncheon last week. I've got a really fun project that I'm working on this week, Huss. And it'll be in the pages of Saturday's Winnipeg Free Press. A very unique perspective on the racetrack. I try and do at least one kind of big deep dive every year on horse racing, and jumping right into this one this week. So you can look forward to that.
Well, listen, I didn't expect any of you guys to miss the incredible buffet that they put out. I noticed that it was George Richards that wrote the story for the paper. Were there any members of the Free Press sports team that didn't show up for the buffet?
It was just Weber and I, so only two of us, the two hockey scribes. Right. We're used to covering the NHL, otherwise known as the Never Hungry League. So, of course, we weren't going to miss the luncheon.
Great stuff, buddy. You take it easy. Have a good one.
You bet. All the best.
All right, there's Mike McIntyre. We're just mentioning the Gold Eyes. And yes, 1 week from tomorrow is the home opener. I see they're over 90% sold right now, gang. Let's sell this one out and get off to a great start. Free red jersey given out to the first 5,000 fans. Now, the one thing you don't want to be is showing up on game day in a long line of people getting the last few tickets. Go to goldeyes.com/tickets right now. Get them on your phone. Get there early. Grab one of those free jerseys for the first 5,000 fans. And let's get going with another great season of Gold Eyes baseball down at the ballpark. Tuesday, May 19th is opening day for the Fish, and we will see you there. Our friends at Royal Sports are ready for baseball season, softball season, soccer season, and more. It's time to get outside, everybody, and whether you're planning on playing on a slow pitch team, you're playing baseball, soccer, you're doing disc golf, you're playing tennis, Royal Sports is ready to get you active and outside right now with one trip over to 750 Pembina Highway. While you're there, make sure to check out the amazing bike selection they've got in the back. The snowboards are out. The bikes are in for spring. Great selection of e-bikes as well, if you're interested in that. And, of course, the World Cup is also here. The best selection in town of Canada gear and teams from around the world for the tournament, which begins in just a month. Royal Sports, for over 60 years, Winnipeg's sports superstore, locally owned. Check them out today at 750 Pembina Highway. And I also want to mention, we got May Long Weekend coming up. We had a great segment with Michael Grajewski last week from Travel Manitoba. If you are thinking about planning that next adventure for May Long or for the summer overall, start with Travel Manitoba. Whether you're searching for road trip inspiration, hidden gems, or the latest festivals and events, everything you need is waiting at travelmanitoba.com. And if you're looking for ideas on the go, make sure to follow along on social media at Travel Manitoba for real-time inspiration, local tips, and can't-miss experiences from around the province. Or if you prefer a personal touch, stop by at their Visitor Information Center at the Forks in Winnipeg. Looking forward to doing a show in early June out at the Visitor Information Center. Maybe some of you can pop by, get some of that inspiration, and say hi to us as well. Well, it is now officially summertime for the Manitoba Moose. They bowed out 3-1 in their series against the Grand Rapids Griffins. And to wrap Moose season, let's bring in the voice of the Moose, our good pal Daniel Fink, one more time for 25-26. Finker, great to have you back on the program. How are you?
Doing good. Just kind of trying to figure out next steps here as we handled exit interviews yesterday, and now all of a sudden I have time to have hobbies again. So just sorting out what the world looks like.
It happens so fast, eh? I mean, you're just dive in, you're all in on the playoff series, and then the next thing you know, one game doesn't go your way, and it's off season. And I was talking with Remis and with Mike earlier. I mean, I thought that win against Milwaukee, getting those additional games and the challenge of going up against Grand Rapids, for the individual players, especially the young ones, I think would do them very well. But overall, I mean, we know that the last couple seasons were miserable for this team. How will you look back on this season with the Manitoba Moose getting into the playoffs, winning that first round, and being a far more competitive team than they had been in the last couple years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember that 2 years ago, despite the poor start the Moose had. They were one of the top teams in the league in the second half, getting into that playoff spot, but of course didn't win a game against the Texas Stars. And you want to talk about sudden finishes. The Moose thought that they were maybe gearing up for a bit of a run, as they had been so good in the second half, and then all of a sudden it was over and they were flying home from Texas empty-handed. But of course, last season was what it was. And I think talking to a lot of the players, they talked about the guys who had been here the previous season, talked about needing to make adjustments, whether it was with themselves or with the team, and those adjustments were made. We saw some new veterans come in and kind of new leadership for that hockey group and that team on the ice. And of course, some of the younger players were a year older. The goaltenders were a year older. And I think we saw the progression there from Dominic DiVincentis and Thomas Milic. And of course, it was kind of an interesting season. And again, this was something the players brought up themselves, was that they went through a lot of highs. They went through a lot of lows. It was a little bit topsy-turvy, a bit of a roller coaster. One night they'd find themselves feeling really good about their game. The next night they weren't feeling so great about their game. That consistency was always something they were searching for, much like their scoring touch. So eventually, like you said, they get into that playoff series, and it seemed like the last few weeks of the season, something seemed to shift with the team. I mean, they weren't always getting the results, but there was more confidence there. It seemed that they had gelled kind of differently as a group, and by the end, you would kind of hear them talk more and more about how tight-knit of a group they were, about how much they relied on each other, and that just seemed to build into the postseason. In a really good 3-game set against the Milwaukee Admirals, it comes at you fast. They found themselves with their backs against the wall. They played some great games in Winnipeg with some great crowds, and they got that win against Grand Rapids, and that belief was right through the room. And of course, all those games against Grand Rapids were so tight, and it really just a bounce here and there, and maybe you're talking about things going a little differently for them, but it was obviously going to be a Herculean task to try and take down that juggernaut in Grand Rapids, and they were just a little bit short. And when you look at what they had to do to defend against that Grand Rapids team to keep those games close, it just didn't seem to leave a whole lot left in the tank to go back the other way and find some offense. So it was certainly an interesting playoff series. I think players learned a lot about themselves. I think you learned a lot about some of the players themselves. And it was certainly a lot of fun to be a part of. And again, it's unfortunate that it came to an end when it did, because you felt like if maybe there was some way the Moose could eke their way past Grand Rapids, there might have been a real opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, how crazy is that? I didn't even know till Mike just told me that Providence lost.
Yeah, it was, you want to talk about incredible. I mean, very similar to the Moose and Griffins. I mean, you talk about a bounce going either way. I mean, the Moose had kind of the beneficiary of a bit of a flubbed call that led to the power play goal that got them the game 1 win. And then you look, there was an offside call missed on an overtime winner that went Springfield's way. And then they win 1-0 with their goaltender playing out of his mind in game number 4. So it's those little bounces, and where the Springfield Thunderbirds, maybe a little bit more scoring skill throughout their lineup, found a way to get that bounce and end up moving past the Providence Bruins in 4 games. The largest upset in American Hockey League history, a 38-point spread between those two teams. Truly remarkable stuff. And maybe that used up all the Cinderella story energy floating around out there for the Moose to find a couple of bounces for themselves.
We talked a lot about Lucas Wallen since he showed up. I thought Braden Yeager really, kind of carried that momentum and confidence he had from his NHL stint back overall. When you look back at the playoffs, maybe starting with Dom DiVincentis, who was just lights out, who maybe helped themselves the most in the organization overall with their performances through the 7 games?
Yeah, I mean, what a performance from Dominic DiVincentis. I mean, you look at his season, it got off to a bit of a halting start. Both goaltenders did. And then in November, Thomas Milic really grabbed the reins. He was the starter. He was going. He got the call up. And then DiVincentis was brilliant, and everything was great for the Moose. And then kind of each goalie would come back from the National Hockey League when they did their little flip-flop, and then kind of needed to get their footing back under them again. And for DiVincentis, it just took a little bit longer, and Milic managed to kind of settle things down in March and had a great month and was a contender for goaltender of the month in March. And so he kind of ran with the net, and of course was named the MVP. But then DiVincentis got into a couple of starts near the end of the season, was real sharp in those. And when the Moose made a pretty gutsy call to make that flip in net and bring DiVincentis in. He rewarded that confidence in them. The Moose have maintained all season long that they're confident when no matter what netminder is between the pipes, and he came in and played outstanding. So a great way to finish the season for him. Gives him a nice launching point into the offseason, that confidence, which of course is so important. And when you can bottle that up and take it into a summer, I'm sure it feels pretty good. I mean, you look at Danny Zhilkin, who had a fantastic finish to the previous season. Look what he did over the summer and then turned that into a breakout campaign. So when you look at the goaltender there, of course, Dominic DiVincentis really helped himself. I thought Garrett Brown really stood out, in maybe more from the perspective of here's a guy playing his first pro hockey, and he managed to slot in and not just survive, but contribute to the Moose trying to push their way past. Lucas Wallin, of course, showed well before bowing out of the series due to injury. And I think for some of the younger guys, I mean, like you said, Braden Yager managed to pick up 4 assists along the way. That was tied with David Gustafson for the team's scoring lead. I'm sure he would have liked to see a little more happen for himself 5-on-5, but there was some important lessons learned in that series, especially with Milwaukee, where it seemed like they were trying to murder each other on the ice, and then against Grand Rapids, where it was a little more I don't want to say cordial. It certainly got nasty out there at times, but it was a heavy, fast series. Mark Morrison said it was some of the fastest hockey he'd seen in the American Hockey League. So you put Braden Yager through that, who's still kind of figuring out the more physical aspects of the game at the pro level. And that's some important experience to see the level you have to be at to be one of those top teams. So I think it maybe beyond guys just standing out, it was important for some of those players to learn those lessons and see what that hockey's like, even going from National Hockey League regular season to American Hockey League postseason, things like that.
Now, I guess everyone's gone their separate ways, kind of cleaned out the lockers yesterday. I'm sure the fellas had a night out together, and now it is off to the offseason for the Manitoba Moose. What are you going to be doing for the next little bit? Already on to 26, 27.
Well, yeah, I mean, get a couple of days here to rest and reflect, and then we'll start on the business side. At least we'll start to do all our postmortems on the season. We were starting to have to plan those anyways, regardless of what was happening playoff wise. So we'll have a little extra time to handle that. So start figuring out what we're going to do for next season. It doesn't really ever stop. We'll keep churning out all the content. We'll be checking in with guys over the off season, getting everything ready, and certainly everybody's going to be watching what happens next with the Winnipeg Jets. That's obviously a big part of what does the Moose roster look like next season. Obviously could be very young based on the players that are available and in the system and coming up right now. You talk about guys like Kevin He, Kieran Walton, Garrett Brown, one of the new additions as well. These prospects are coming up, and Alphonse Fraby in North America and Europe. There's all these questions that will be answered over the next few months, and that will give us at least an idea of what the Moose roster looks like, because that could certainly change, because a lot of the veterans aren't necessarily under contract for next season. So are there guys re-signing and coming back? So there's a lot, as usual, at the American Hockey League level, there's a lot of answers that need delivering, and we'll see how it plays out over the next few months.
Finker, thanks for all the help and all the time joining us, talking Moose hockey on the program this year. The calls, lots of love for the calls in the chat, as there should be. You do a heck of a job. Always love having you on the program, and congrats on the great season to you. Let's do this again soon.
Thanks, Huss. Really appreciate it. And hey, we had such a great time. Those last playoff games, you want to feel that excitement, check out moosehockey.com/memberships. Get locked in for next season. Don't wait on it. Just get it figured out. Get in the stands, and hey, get ready for the 2026-27 home opener.
Beautiful. Be well. There's Dan Fink at Daniel the Fink on X. And of course, you can check out he and the great content team at the Moose over at moosehockey.com. I am counting down a couple weeks. Finally get a chance to go early in the season to Aikens Lake. So excited about making this happen. Of course, been there a few other times, but never this early. Going to learn a little bit more about early season fishing. If you love fishing, or if you want to go out for just a world-class fishing experience and have the experts take care of you and show you what to do and hold your hand a little bit, Aikens is the place for you. You can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg, and you'll enjoy world-class fishing and even more world-class hospitality from the Turenne family and the Aikens Lake team. Go to aikenslake.com today to check out options and availability for the 2026 fishing season, and hopefully we'll see you out at Aikens, or maybe just firing us a picture of a couple big master anglers that you picked up on the lake at some point this season. Shout out to Pitt and the guys just heading out now to get ready and take their first guests, I believe, coming up on the weekend for May Long. Our friends at Breezy Bend are now fully underway with the season. The weather hopefully will green things up a little bit, but man, the course and the superintendent and the greenskeeping team does an amazing job at Breezy. Part of the reason why they hosted the Manitoba Open last year and are a number one choice of people to make Breezy their long-term golfing home for you and your family. If you're thinking about membership, go to breezybend.ca to find out a little bit more. And you can also give the Pro Shop a call at 895-7205 and talk to our pal Corey Johnson about it. As far as Breezy Bend report from the weekend, Truist Championship is finished up. Norwegian Christopher Reiten with a 2-stroke win over Ricky Fowler and Dane Nikolai Højgaard. Alex Fitzpatrick, who's been such a great story on the tour, getting his tour card with his brother in New Orleans at the Zurich 2 weeks ago, follows up his performance last week with another top 4 finish, this time 12 under par. Great story. Top Canadians in the field, Nick Taylor, T14, and our guy, Sudarshan, top 20 machine, 19th overall, and Sudarshan Yelamaraju will be playing in his first major this week at the PGA Championship. We'll have more on that coming up later on this week. All right, we are going to take a trip out to the Downs. First up, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
Well, tomorrow is opening day at Assiniboia Downs. Do not forget our contest for June 3rd. Go to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. Enter if you're able to join us on June 3rd, and you might be in our first of 3 horse races on Wednesday's show. And speaking of the horse races, they are going live at Assiniboia Downs tomorrow night. And the brains of the operation, one Darren Dunn, our good friend, joins us now. Double D, this must feel like Christmas Eve before we get going again tomorrow for another season of live racing.
It is, Hustler. I got to tell you, we're excited out here. Our team is energized and ready to welcome everyone. I think everybody by now knows we're open year-round. We have all kinds of other events, but we have 50 home games, as I like to call them, and 50 only. This is our mandate, live horse racing, and, can't wait to break them out of the gate, and let's go. We've been training here since March the 1st under challenging conditions would be a little bit of an understatement, but it's time to get them out of the gate, and I can't wait. Our dining room is packed and, sold out for both opening 2 days of the season, and it's time to welcome folks for some thoroughbred action.
Well, I would imagine that maybe Mother Nature has been waiting to get on with it, waiting for the horses to go to post at Assiniboia Downs. It's about time, right?
Oh, Lord, no kidding. And truthfully, we've only got 6 races Tuesday and Wednesday, which is fine. The field sizes aren't what we would normally expect. In saying that, it just simply is a condition of what we've had to deal with spring training. Training was interrupted regularly and routinely, unfortunately. And these horses, it is not unlike the Bombers or the Jets. It's training camp. March 1st, they are out here. They've been in the farms around Manitoba, et cetera. So I'm talking specifically about the local horses. And, you start with long, slow gallops, and you've got to build up to sprinting and being ready to take on the horses that are joining us from Texas, Nebraska, Arizona, Hastings, like fit horses who are game ready already. So it's very challenging. And we're a little behind in that regard. It's unfortunate, but I think people will quickly see some improved field sizes as early as next week. But anyways, time to go. 6 races or not, there'll be 6 winners each night.
Big picture, I remember, and we've been working with you for a long time, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, The head count was a challenge. It seems like that's really turned around over the last few years. How are we looking like overall for just the quantity of horses, trainers, all of that, the health of the scene, if you will?
Yeah, totally. Well, Hustler, you know what? More everything. And whether it's, and I don't want this to come across as tire pumping for us in any ways, but I think it's just a recognition of our brand, the quality of racing that we have here, the exposure we have, which is, as we've talked about many times over the years, goes way beyond the borders of Manitoba. And folks tune in, they watch. The purse or prize money that's available is very, very competitive. And even though it's very tough to win a horse race here, we have more folks who want to do it. Our horse inventory right now is tracking to be up about 10%. And so that substantially puts us over 500 on site. Others that will transition in, and others that will be coming from other racetracks throughout the race meet. So our field size should be solid from the word go. But just overall, a testament to what we're doing out here in Winnipeg, and how much people really believe into Friendly Manitoba and the racing program we have here.
Now, Darren, you're far too good of a guy and too humble to pump your own tires, but I will do it for you. We spoke at the end of last year. I mean, listen, you've navigated this through some pretty tough times into, well, let's call it a record-breaking year last year. And I imagine as you set the bar, the goals continue to get higher. I mean, just where are we at as the health of the Downs right now, coming off a 68th season that smashed some records?
Yeah, it did, Hustler, and I appreciate you saying that. We're proud of that, without a doubt. But it does raise the bar, and I'm not one to sit and rest on our laurels. Beyond what we believe we will be wagering on any given night because of our distribution, again, we spend a lot of time nursing those relationships over the winter. So both locally, who shows up here, and then the tourists that we're able to bring in from the surrounding areas in the northern and western United States. But what we send out globally is a very big deal. And, I'll tell you that I don't have the exact date that they're going to come on board, but we've been working over multiple years to try and get some additional partnership globally. And I can say with certainty that we're going to bring on the country of Malaysia. We're going to bring on the country of Singapore and the country of Papua New Guinea. And it's a strong gaming market. It's a little bit of the heritage of the area. It might be like Australia, where we are very much prominent down under and have been for quite a while. But it took about 2 or 3 years. What is this ASD? They know Canada, but Winnipeg, Manitoba might be a little bit of a challenge. So it takes a while to build that. But I can say without a doubt, we want to do our best to once again elevate things, and whether that's on site with additional new promotions or the wagering dollar, where you can literally punt away and not affect the odds meaningfully. And something that we couldn't say, as you mentioned a number of years ago, where you bet $50, you change the odds a little too much. Now you bet $100 to win. Not saying I say that responsibly. Your price could go up. So that's growth for sure.
Darren Dunn, the CEO of Assiniboia Downs, is with us. Live racing season begins tomorrow, May the 12th, 7:30 post time. We have seen some changes over the schedule of the last few years. I mean, I remember the Wed, Fry, Sat. We then went to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It seems like Tuesday, Wednesday will be consistent throughout the year, and you really picked some great Mondays. Just what's different, or has it changed at all for this year?
Yeah, no, that's you're exactly right. It is going to be, without a doubt, very consistent Tuesday, Wednesday, right from the word go, right to the first week of October. We have sprinkled in, I'll use your term, sprinkled in, some Mondays, select. And it continues to position us in the best head-to-head matchups with Tier 2 racetracks. And that's something that we fear nothing relative to competition, but it's very strategic to not go against Woodbine, Belmont Park, Del Mar, and those kind of, absolute hammerhead shark Tier 1 tracks. So that's the theme once again. Brings a lot of eyes. We've tried our best to try and own that early week market and have made great strides in being able to do that. Strong relationships, as I mentioned, south of the border specifically, and then globally. And so again, it's just about positioning and selling our television signal for the maximum revenue opportunity, the largest wagering pools, the biggest payoffs for our customers.
Obviously, the August long weekend will have a Monday run. I would imagine that is Labor Day? I mixed up when Labor Day. Yeah, Labor Day is the 1st this year, right? So September 1st, that's actually coming in on a Tuesday. And Canada Day on a Wednesday. That is perfect double D. I mean, there'll be a few big days. And of course, we should mention the biggest day of them all, the Manitoba Derby.
Yeah, and that is the staple for sure of our season. It's the pinnacle day when even the casual folks will circle that and come on out and join us on Monday of the August long. And, because we go Monday night and have for a number of years now, people are a little bit more accustomed to do lake life on the weekend or a festival wherever. There's many great festivals in Manitoba, as we all know, but then come back in time to take in the Manitoba Derby, that special day. Canada Day night just works perfectly on a Wednesday, as you mentioned. We're going to do fireworks. We've been known for fireworks now the last half dozen years or so. So we're going to light up the sky after the races as well, and looking forward to that. That perfectly aligns. And, it's just 50 home games has to fit within a reasonable period of time. So that's why we do add in some Mondays. But it still stays with that consistent strategy of early in the week, stay away from the weekends, let people have lake life locally in the festivals, but also, again, avoid those Tier 1 tracks.
Darren, as a regular attendee out at the track, I couldn't help but notice towards I guess maybe in the second half of last season, would be out there in big crews of women all wearing their hats and having drinks together. Yeah. I mean, the girls' night out, you guys had some really cool promotions. Is that back, and what else should people know about for maybe some good nights to get together with friends to go out to the Downs?
Yeah, I will say that we did call a bit of an audible last year and came up with that idea almost mid-season, to your exact point there, girls' night out. We're going to have that again, but July and only, so there's a little bit of scarcity, but that's on Wednesdays in July and August. And listen, to do the simple math, when the girls are out here, the boys tend to follow, so it ends up being quite a little party, but all kinds of specials for the gals in the crowd, and features, draws, contests, geared around that situation where they come out. And you're right, coming out in droves. It is the cowboy hats on, the cowboy boots, a lot of fun there. We're going to continue with our family fun nights, be very cognizant of our commitment to the community there for families. When you can park for free, you can walk in for free. Tuesdays, when the kids are out of school in July and August, free family fun. And so you don't even have to wager if you don't want to. Come out, pick a name, pick a color, and have some fun with the little ones or grandparents with grandkids. As a matter of fact, even opening night tomorrow night, we are going to kick in a family fun night as well. We're going to add, actually, in June, Western Wednesdays. So just Wednesdays in June and June only. So we're going to have line dancing outside in between the races, right by the winner's circle on the outdoor tarmac. If you're rusty for that, we're going to have free lessons. And then we're also going to add a mechanical bull for the cowgirls and cowboys in the crowd who want to show off their level of skill in the saddle on a bull. So that's a little bit of fun as well. I'm going to do some drone shows for maybe 6, 7, even 8 days after the races. So we're talking about fireworks in the sky on Canada Day night, but we're still aligning the exact dates, and we'll make a lot of noise about it. But wow, I've seen some of the previews, and that is a really cool experience, and we'll do that a number of times to kick that in as well. So, and I even got to throw in one little plug here for Team Dachshund, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes.
Wiener dog races. Seen them at racetracks before. We're going to do it. And so that's going to be on July the 13th. We're going to have some wiener dog races in between the races, just for a little bit of light fun and humor, and, breaks things up. Look, the horses are the show. They always will be the show, and we're proud of them being the show. But it's fun to build around that with some of these exciting promotions and quirky little add-ons that we're happy to do.
I have July 13th circled on my calendar. It is already in my phone. There's no way I'm missing the wiener dog races along with the track. And it goes without saying, I know we kind of talked about what's up for this season starting tomorrow, but 50 nights a year, if you're lucky enough to get a rezo in that clubhouse dining room, you're bringing back the buffet, and nobody does it better.
Oh, amen. And as you can tell by my waistline, which I'll suck in here, I do a little quality assurance, sampling here and there just to make sure. No, but yeah, our prime, as you know, that's our signature certified prime rib, the best of the best. And, I think the thing that goes well with it as well, and I remind people, is that in your terrace dining room, the table is yours for the night. We don't turn the tables here. You're not out the door after 90 minutes or anything like that. So come in, have the prime rib buffet, the salads, everything that goes with it, all the accompaniments. Then take some time to maybe walk down to the paddock, watch the horses be saddled, or head out to the outdoor tarmac and hear, the audio of the real thundering hooves as the horses blow by. Come back up, have dessert, go for another walk, etc. The table's yours for the night. Prime rib is set set and ready to go. And to your point, though, 885-3330 to get reservations, because we're so fortunate to sell out most nights. And I do give people a heads up 2 or 3 weeks in advance. Pick your day, if it's just for the races or it's an anniversary or company recognition night or something to that effect. Getting ahead of the schedule and making an actual reservation is your best way to be successful.
Darren, cannot wait to see you and your team out there starting tomorrow with 50 days of live racing. asdowns.com. You can check out the entire schedule, make your plans, and as Darren just mentioned, give a call on your night, get a little spot in the dining room, eat like a king, and hopefully win like a king as well. Darren, good luck on another great season. Can't wait to see you out there. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Good luck with your handicapping this year as well. We'll be watching.
All right, great stuff with Double D. Again, tomorrow night, opening day. We got Tuesday and Wednesday racing this week and next. I see Tyson says in chat, I've never been to the Downs, but lived by the track in Portage as a kid. And then Daniel Sinclair, that buffet is crazy good. That is true. Yeah, if you, Tyson, Daniel, everyone, if you want to join us on June 3rd, the WST team will be taking 3 winners along with their guests and posting up and crushing prime rib and hopefully hitting some winners. Go to winnipegsportstalk.com/contest. And tomorrow, Wednesday, we will make our pick for the track. And on Wednesday, after the program, it's quite technologically advanced as the marble race, but somewhat similar. We'll be picking 10 names from everyone that entered, and we will run a horse racing simulation, 3 laps of a digital track, and whoever gets to the finish line first is going to get an invite to join us. We'll take care of all the food, and that should be a great night. We should also talk about doing a big WST night later on this year, maybe at some point during the summer. I know Darren's always been great and very hospitable to our group. We did this at the old station where we can bring a group of 50 or 70 people, usually get us something to eat beforehand, a free $2 bet, a little bit of a educational session at the beginning, and then go out and enjoy one of those beautiful summer days outside.
Yeah, well, I think we got to start planning the WST summer events calendar. As yes, we're at the Gold Eyes game, June 30. That got announced. We put that out on the newsletter. And so an event at Assiniboia Downs where you can have a lot of people there, I do think that would work. So stay tuned to the show. And the newsletter did return this weekend, announcing what poker night Wednesday.
This Wednesday, poker's back, everybody.
Announcing that concert as well. So exciting stuff here.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, it'll be a little bit more of an exclusive group. We've only got room for the 3 winners with us in the dining room and their guests. But get in on that, winnipegsportstalk.com/contest, and join us at the end of Wednesday's show for our first horse race on WST. Speaking of cool bet, let's get to the lines for tonight. And as Michael just mentioned, Wednesday night, we're back at it, 8 p.m. with the WST poker game. Myself, Jeff Hamilton, Michael Remis will all have the bounties on our heads. And I hope you will join us to take a shot at us and just have another great time. The attorneys have been super, super fun. Working on something special, kind of like what we did for Costa Rica, potentially later on this summer. Stay tuned for that. Tonight, in the National Hockey League, we have the Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. Avalanche minus 143 favorites on the road. Minnesota plus 121 to even up the series. Really impressed with what the Wild brought forth at home against the Avs in game number 3, Rumo. And to be honest, maybe I'm just hoping for a longer series. But I don't mind the Wild as a pretty nice-looking home dog tonight.
Man, they looked so good on Saturday. As you texted me, it wasn't exactly a must-win, but it was like the biggest can't-lose ever. Yeah. You cannot go down 3-0 to Colorado, and there are some lineup changes. We've been waiting for Joel Eriksson Ek to return from Minnesota. Well, that's not happening. The lineup changes, Colorado switching their goalie from Wedgwood to another. Scott Wedgwood out, Mackenzie Blackwood in. And these teams, they switch goalies throughout the year. I think it's a lot. I think we sometimes overlook like a lot to ask for one guy to, all of a sudden start being the guy and play every single game when no one does that during the regular season. The playoffs are long. Maybe a good idea to give a guy a night out here or a night off here. So Mackenzie Blackwood coming in, but Minnesota Wild on the back of Quinn Hughes, man, that goal he scored, the way he controls the puck in the offensive end, skating around and like shooting it opposite side while skating backwards, basically on that goal was incredible to watch. So I was falling out of my chair, I think, watching. So, I mean, he could single-handedly carry Minnesota to another win, and we'd have a series. These are two heavyweights going toe-to-toe if Minnesota can make it 2-2.
Yeah, this series feels like it's maybe a bit of a level up from everything else going on right now. Obviously, the Canes have already finished them off. For tomorrow's games, right now, the lines, Buffalo plus 118, Habs minus 139, and the Ducks plus 130, Vegas minus 154, Anaheim and Vegas tied at 2 after the Ducks win last night, and the Habs up 2-1. Series prices right now, Buffalo's plus 195, Habs minus 250 with their lead. The Wild were plus 590 after being down 2-0. They're still up against it, plus 340 for Minnesota, Colorado minus 455. Vegas minus 159, Ducks plus 130. Those are your series prices right now. Avalanche, actually, it's funny. The Canes are now the Stanley Cup favorite, mainly because they're moved on. They've already moved on to the next round. But Canes plus 150, Avs plus 175, Habs plus 950, Vegas 10-1, Wild 14-1, Buffalo and Anaheim both 22-1. NBA playoffs tonight. We got two games. The Pistons are in Cleveland to take on the Cavs. Cavs 3.5-point favorites. And the OKC Thunder, a 12-point favorite in LA to sweep the LA Lakers. I see the Spurs tomorrow night, 11-point home favorites against Minnesota. Wemby not being suspended for his vicious elbow yesterday. And no suspensions from the NHL last night, Remo. Just a couple of good old fines.
Yeah, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. Arbor Xhekaj and who was that? What's this guy's name on Buffalo? Melinston fined $3,515.63, the maximum allowable under the CBA for goalie interference against Jakub Dobeš. As I told you, there's no injury. It was perfectly legal play. Did not expect anything to happen, and that's pocket change. And Arbor Xhekaj, a slightly bigger fine, $3,385.42 for roughing.
I love this. I love they go max it out. Don't forget the 42 cents on that on that fine as well.
Yeah, like why wouldn't you just punch a guy with your glove in the face after every play if you're only going to get fined for it? Like why not run the goalie even more? I guess these are CBA negotiated. There's nothing you can do. But these fines, like they're laughable, and we talk about it every time that they happen. They're not deterring anyone from anything, so I don't know what the point of them is. Maybe so you have it on record, I guess, for when you do get another infraction, for a hearing.
I guess, yeah. It wasn't quite enough to be suspended, but it was to be fined. I think both of those plays, if they happen in the regular season, are getting games for sure. There is, looking at the chat. Oh, you know what? And Winnipeg Puck brought this up in chat a little earlier. We should give a shout out to Winnipeg's Brendan O'Donnell, who I don't believe he'll be participating on the main roster in the World Championships. He did get in one of the pre-tournament games. And, it's interesting. You mentioned that name to me, Brendan O'Donnell. I'm like, that guy played for the Winnipeg South Blues, didn't he? He absolutely did. And he is now, has had an incredible career overseas. He finished up with the Blues, played a year in the BC League with Penticton, then went to the University of North Dakota for 4 years, kicked around the East Coast League for a couple years, got 8 games with the Texas Stars, and then went over to Europe and was playing in the second tier league in the KHL, played in the KHL, and then after bouncing around a bit, found a nice home in the German league, which is one of the top leagues over there. So very cool to see a local guy get a little bit of a taste of wearing the red and white. And it's important that guys like that get a chance around here because unfortunately, Remo, Hockey Canada's not in the Spengler next year.
Yeah, that was a big international announcement last week. Canada, not able to come to agreement to participate in the Spengler Cup. And I love the Spengler Cup because you see the roster and I remember that guy from a few years ago. How are we going to remember guys now when it comes to Christmas time?
I love the Spengler. I actually watch, that first week of the World Juniors where there's not as many competitive games. I find myself watching more Spengler than the first week or so of the World Juniors. And then as things get ramped up, I spend more time on the World Jays.
The atmosphere is incredible. And I know JP Vijay has talked very highly about his experience winning the Spengler Cup with Team Canada. And Dusty went over there to call it. I would love to go see the Spengler, get some skiing in, get some hockey. It sounds amazing. And it is disappointing that Canada won't be in, but hopefully they can come to some sort of agreement, so Canada will be in the future. But we do have the Worlds now.
Yeah, well, and exactly. And speaking of Switzerland, Zurich is the place to be over the course of the next few weeks for the World Hockey Championships. We'll keep our eyes out on anything coming over from Canada. Scheifele, Vilardi, and Celebrini, I think, had 10 points on that line. They both did damage on the power play, did damage at 5-on-5. So should be fun for us to be watching at least Scheif, Vilardi, and Dylan DeMello with Team Canada coming up. And I mentioned right off the bat, nice weekend for the Niverville Nighthawks. They go to 2-0 in the tournament with their win over Thunder Bay. Kind of with such a big tournament, they actually had 2 days off. So they'll be nice and rested and ready to go tomorrow when they drop the puck against the Canmore Eagles, the only team ahead of them in their pool. Canmore is 2-0-1, Niverville's 1-0-1, so they could take over first place with a win in regulation against Canmore coming up tomorrow. That is a 2 p.m. game, so right around now when we're finishing up tomorrow's show, we'll have some updates from the Centennial Cup. They got a 2 o'clock game on Wednesday against the Rockland Nationals from the CCHL. It's an area just outside of Ottawa. And then the semis go on Friday. Or I guess the quarters go on Friday. I believe the division winners move straight to the Saturday semifinals. And then the championship game. Not sure whether it's on TSN or not. I should check that out. It has been in the past. 5 p.m. Winnipeg time on Sunday will be the Centennial Cup Championship, and fingers crossed, our MJHL champion Niverville Nighthawks will be there. Anything else on your mind that we need to get to before the end of the show there, Reem?
No, I think we touch on everything. A lot of talk about the Blue Jays. Eric Lauer gave up 6 yesterday. He talked again about how he doesn't like having an opener. Well, he got sent down today, so not great for him. And the Blue Jays are hosting Tampa starting today.
Yeah, they are. That one, Jays minus 132. Gauze on the mound. Kevin Gausman. That's a 6:07 start. They owe the Rays a few L's after what the Tampa did to him at the Trop last week. 6 games tonight in the majors. Giants, Dodgers, rookie Sasaki, 1-3, almost a 6 ERA. He's going for the Dodgers tonight. Mariners, Astros, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Yankees, Orioles, and Angels and Guardians. And of course, it is the PGA Championship. PGA odds are up right now over at Coolbet. Scotty Scheffler's the favorite at plus 450. Rory at 8-1. Cam Young 12. Rahm 14. Xander 16. Ludwig Åberg 18. And then Bryson DeChambeau and Matty Fitzpatrick at 20-1. We'll see if Feinberg and maybe a couple of our other favorites can come on, and we'll tee up the PGA Championship coming up later on this week. Fun show today. Let's do it again tomorrow, Remo. What do we have cooking for tomorrow already?
Jeff Hamilton
Hammer
coming on. He's talking, I guess, Jets, but also CFL. He's been at Bombers training camp, and we'll touch on this Stanley Cup playoffs. Look back on Minnesota, Colorado, but also get the view from Montreal. As man, it's rocking there for the Sabres-Habs series.
Tomorrow is going to be absolutely bananas. The 2-1 lead after pretty magical night last night at the Bell Center. I'm looking forward to it. So we'll be all over that tomorrow. Make sure to join us. Big thanks to all of our sponsors that make the show happen each and every day. Of course, our everyone that joined us live on YouTube, thank you. Great participation in the chat as always. And all of you podcast listeners as well. That is going to do it for us. Have a great night. Enjoy the Wild Avalanche game, Blue Jays baseball, and more. We'll break it all down for you tomorrow when we get going live once again, 1 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Have a great night.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.